I'll put the music I like there.
This stuff, but you have learned something within the first 10 minutes of this course, and that is exactly, the way you want to start this. There's going to be
I'm not exactly sure how we should start this, because I could start off from the beginning, of course. That'd make like the most sense. Or I could just continue off where I'm at, which is like around here, like 5 hours in. Yeah, 5 hours in. I left it off at like 5 hours in. But I'm gonna start off with the beginning. I don't really care about the results right now. I'm much rather do this consistently than like start off at the 5 hours today. At the end of the week, I'll be at the 5 hours roughly. Like, should be able to. Yeah.
Animation, whole bunch of different
So let's see.
With a breakdown of exporting and a huge bonus section covering everything we've learned throughout the entire.
Let me fast forward.
Before we get into all the nitty and gritty and all the kind of the official stuff, right?
Alright, everything else good.
Right away and have basically achieved.
I should actually have it replaying in the.
So without further ado,
Hold on.
go to the resources and download this clip right here. It's a clip of me walking, right? I'm literally just walking down the street, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim this down, and we're also gonna throw a transition on the front of it.
So the dashboard, I should just have the actual channel up.
Downloaded that. Go ahead and drag and drop that into your actual media manager right here. And you drag and drop it over here. It's gonna import itself, and then what we can actually do is we can drag it
And
down
then
here to this
there we go.
which creates a composition based around.
What does it look like?
So if we drag and drop
360p,
this
I turn it to like 180p.
instantly created a
Oh yeah, this looks really
What
clean.
we can actually do is, I don't actually want any audio on this, so we can untick the volume button. That's all we have to do to get the volume gone, is untick it, and then we can press space bar.
Alright, I'm gonna have to replay the video, but
Is a 120 frames a second.
okay, so if I go into After
What we've done
Effects,
is, make 120
should
frames a
still
second
be
sequence, so this instantly becomes slow motion because 120 frames a
should
second
still be playing, I think.
is four times more than
Yeah,
the kind of
okay.
average
Sick.
speed of a clip, which is about 30.
Let's go back.
Break down this course before you guys start. After that, we're gonna jump solid in save you.
So
Projects. Masterclass course. Right now, we're gonna do a
mini lesson.
into all the nitty and gritty and all the kind of the official stuff, right? But I want to have something where you guys can learn something right away and have basically achieved something.
oh, okay. So something huge about this that I just remembered is that he uses a lot of downloadable files that he has in the description, which is cool and all if you want like a perfect one-to-one with the tutorial, but honestly bit of a hassle considering it's not the same. It's like multiple media files and a bit of a hassle, not gonna lie. So I should still have the ones that I downloaded at the start. Yeah, okay, so I have one audio file and one video file which I'll be using for pretty much, holy shit, been a while. I can't even like I can't even speak properly, enunciate properly. Yeah, I'll be using one particular. I'll make sure to link the video first and foremost, and then the one resource I'll be using. The link to the rest of it should be. Well, you can't really see it fully on the mini screen because the way it's set up, but it's a whole bunch of links here. But yeah, I'll just be using the first one, the first clip he shows.
Right, I'm literally just walking down the street, and what we're gonna do is we're gonna trim this down, and we're also gonna throw a transition on the front of it, and we're also going to make it slow motion. So without further ado, we can actually, once you've downloaded that, go ahead and drag and drop that into your actual media manager right here. And you drag and drop it over here. It's going to import itself, and then what we can actually do is we can drag it down here to this button.
This is actually pretty important.
So if we drag and drop it into that button there.
So I'm gonna do that. I'm gonna make a new project, of course. New project. New project. Weird. Okay, it's called Untitled, which... Okay. I guess I'll have to name it later. So it was... drag the file. You can't actually see my file manager, I just realized. This shouldn't be too much of an issue though. So then you just drag the clip over here. Should be an explanation for this though.
Instantly created a composition right now, and what we can actually do is, I don't actually want any audio on this, so we can untick
Lower the music a bit more.
That's all we have to do to get the volume gone, is untick it, and then we can press spacebar, which is play. And what this is right here is a 120 frames a second clip, and what we've done is make a 120 frames a second sequence. So this instantly becomes slow motion, because 120 frames a second is four times more than the kind of average speed of a clip, which is about 30 frames a second, right? So it instantly creates this nice slow motion effect. However, the whole beginning of this is sort of not mandatory, so what we want to do is we want to...
Okay, hold on.
With a breakdown of the percentage and get welcome to all the nitty right away and the official stuff, right? But I want to have something where you guys can look this down without that, which it...
Okay, great. I didn't actually miss anything.
Instantly creates this nice slow motion effect. However,
let's confirm it. Okay, yeah, he's right. Nice, nice slow motion. I'm gonna click on fit here so you can see like the entire thing.
Whole beginning of this
and like pause this so it's not.
What we want to do is we want to scroll over until it gets a little bit smoother, probably around here. So let's actually cut it at about there. All right, let's press Control Shift D, which is the shortcut to cut. Let's delete that and let's drag and drop it over.
Control Shift D. Another thing is the cuts. The cuts are not gonna be precise, like, at all. Only for this one, really. Well, quote unquote precise. Because I'm not really following it to the T. But yeah, for the rest of these, it's not gonna be precise. Because I'm gonna be using a completely different clip.
And it's lagging a little bit because, of course, it's 120 frames a second, which is a very slow clip, pretty much. And it's just lagging a little bit. So what we could do is, if you guys are experiencing a little bit of lag, you can go to full and change that to about quarter, which means...
What's mine at? Okay, it's at quarter. Okay, great.
Means that it's playing at quarter of the resolution that it could, which means it's going to slow down the lag.
I'll switch. There we go. I'm so glad I have this set up. Yeah, I should actually. This should be the current setup.
And then I continue walking down the street.
Ooh, I just realized something.
Is right there when I kind of
The...
We could actually press Control Shift D again and cut that one out.
I
And now
think...
we've actually selected this
there we go.
area right here, which is a
there we go. But now there's a bit of an issue. I think box number 1 with text. Which one is box number 1 with text? Okay, box 2 goes above video. Perfect.
It's a nice quick thing for you guys to get your heads around, and that is the animation preset folder. So if we go up here to animation and then apply animation,
this is like pretty advanced. I'm not gonna lie, because the animations is like on the 3rd hour of this video. Let me actually do that so I'm not like 2 hours behind. Presets.
you know, areas right here, right? And what we can actually do is we can grab a couple. So I think I might even try and throw some stuff on there, right? And I'm probably going to be looking in text, right? I'm going to go to text, or actually probably not text. I'm probably going to go to movement, transitions, movement. So if I come here, we see all these different transitions, right? And the one I want to actually use is stretch and blur. So let's actually click that and press open.
Oh.
And what's going to happen is the clip is actually
movement, stretch, and blur. Where's that? Stretch and blur. Sick.
It's going to disappear off the screen because it has started a transition. And now if we actually come here and we press this little arrow right here to open it up, then a further arrow to open it up, and the further arrow to open the stretch up, what's happened is keyframes have been created here. So it actually, when we press spacebar to play, our clip
why is this in the first 6 minutes? What the hell?
That they give us access to.
I mean, sure.
So what we can actually do is we can actually highlight both of these, press Control C and Control
C, Control V at the end.
What we can actually do is we can make sure to swap them around, right? Because we want to reverse them
Okay,
out. So now what we've done is we've reversed that original transition in.
Let's do that ourselves as well. So the effects, this one. So we see both of these. These should be at the start. I'll move this one over here. I think I might just do it individually. Yeah, I'm gonna do them individually. You can copy paste them as a group though, but I think I'll prefer just do it individually. Alright, we go. The animations are pretty alright. There's some that are obviously better than others, or that look better than others, but for the most part, pretty good. Let's go back.
So what we can do now is actually, if we go to the end here and press N, which is an out point, which means that it seals off this section. Now if we go to the start and press spacebar to play, we have a transition in onto the clip that we've chopped down, a nice slow motion clip, and then transition straight back out. And then because of that out point set, it just replays from the beginning. And if you followed through with me on this extremely simple first exercise, we have learned something.
That's it.
You have learned something. I knew this stuff, but you have learned something within the first 10 minutes of this course, and that is exactly
10 minutes.
You know, the way we want to start this. There's going to be so much more value in this course. You literally haven't even started. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome to.
I guess that mini lesson was just for people that wanted to actually like see what it was gonna be about without waiting 4 hours. Makes more sense for him than for the actual people taking the course, but and it should loop back. Alright, perfect. Let me just review this real quick. Let's switch back. Sick. Alright, so go over here. There's a lot to unpack though. He's gonna go over the shortcuts. He's gonna go over the menu. I'm pretty sure either the first or the second. It makes more sense for it to be the first, but I don't quite remember. Let me move the microphone a bit more over here, so I'm actually talking a bit further away now. But yeah, let's see. First thing was dragging the clip, of course, to the composition. As far as I remember, its main usage is just so the comp shares the same FPS as the actual clip. So this clip, of course, as you can see where my mouse is, I'm not sure if it shows up very well considering how like small the text is, but it says 119 FPS. So if you want the composition to be 119, of course you could change it over here, but it definitely it applies automatically if you just drag it over here to the comp. But this is like, okay, that right there with the comp, I'd say that's important to know after like the menu, once you understand the menu, because that's like one of the first things you'll be doing. But for the animation presets and stuff, this is not really right now. I'll quickly show it again. It's just there's I know there's a different way of doing it, but I think it depends on the type of file you're using. So for this one, for example, I don't think it has. Actually, no. Okay. So another way to access the animation presets is effects and presets over here on the right. Depending on how the, what do you call this, workspace? I don't remember what Adobe calls it, but depending on your like quote unquote workspace or the way you have this stuff organized, yeah, you should have it over on the right here, and then you know you have all these, and it's a lot easier because you have the search bar instead of just, you know, going over here, animation, apply preset, and then looking for it individually. You can just go over here and look for it with the search. Then keyframes, I'm not even gonna go into that. It's not worth it. It's gonna be explained later, but yeah, that was pretty much it. The other thing, the last thing finally was the Control-Shift-D and then N key. Two very important short keys. Control-Shift-D just to cut it. The cut is a bit interesting though in this program because compared to like Premiere, it's not, it doesn't show up on the same horizontal line. So as you can see here, it went like one space above. So that's an important distinction. You have like two separate clips here vertically. And then N, which is just to like, so this, imagine the clip was like this. You get to this part, it ends, but it keeps playing, which is, you know, it's not really needed. You don't need any of that, so you just press N and boom, just loops back once it reaches that the time that you put the N key on. Yeah, but that was pretty much it for the mini lesson. So I'm gonna switch back over to here.
The Adobe After Effects Masterclass course. My name's Jack Cole, freelance video editor, videographer, and YouTuber, producing
I'm gonna
daily content.
skip this part over here.
Hard program
Okay,
to navigate. So that's what this
cool.
episode here is going to be. So first off, this right here is what the program's going to look like.
Did I skip the? Okay, introduction to layout. Okay, perfect. Please.
If you don't know what you're doing, it could be a real, you know, hard program to navigate. So that's what this episode here is going to be. So first off, this right here is what the program's going to look like once you actually load it up and you know, start a new project. And basically, you've got a few different sections. As you see, if we click a different section, it highlights this sort of blue outline around it, which means that we're currently operating in that particular section, right? So more or less, we'll start, I guess.
Actually, okay, I'm gonna pause this real quick. But would it be worth? I think it might be worth to just put which. I mean, it's a bit obvious once I hover over the video. Like you can see the what do you even call the playback? Damn, I'm blanking. Where you can like hover over certain part of the video and skip ahead. That bar, you know, obviously, you know which is which off of that, but at a first glance, you wouldn't be able to know which. Why does it show up? Okay, never mind. Yeah, you wouldn't be able to know which is my After Effects and which is the videos. But I'll see what I could do about that because I don't want to add too much into this setup.
Here, what you have is all the different actual, you know, standard buttons that you'd have in an actual program. Now, the actual file and edit, they're pretty universal. More or less, any program you go into is going to have a file and an edit, and we'll get into the different specifications of each of the you know, the options that they give you here. But overall, you've got a file, which is more or less dealing with the actual project itself. Edit, which is some actual, you know, internal stuff, whether it be copy pasting and you know, duplicating stuff.
It's gonna be as many just listening and watching.
Because it's just a much quicker way to do it, and we'll be getting that.
So take notes. In the meantime, I shall
composition, which we'll crack
update
on
on the Discord that I'm
which
live.
is all revolving around the actual different layers we've created down here
Discord.
in the timeline. Effects is pretty universal. This right here is overall just well, it's pretty straightforward. It's the effects. Of course, you can also access that in effects and presets. Animation, whole bunch of different animation-based stuff. View revolves around the layout. Window is, again, ticking on different tabs, so there's actually way more tabs than just the ones we have here, but these are the standard ones. And help, which is more or less not necessary, because I'm here to help you walk stuff through, basically. So that is the actual buttons you have at the top, and then we'll crack on with the actual layout itself. So over here is the project manager, aka the media manager. When we import stuff, it's going to be here. When we make compositions, it's going to be here. If we get a graphic and bring it in, it's going to be here. If we make any sort of different pieces of media, that's all going to appear right here. And of course it's empty because we currently have no media. You've got name, which is the the name of the media, whatever the case may be. If you import a file that's file number 1, it'll pop up here under name. Over here is the composition. Once we've actually clicked new composition, which we're going to be getting to next, and we've actually built a composition, right? This is going to be where you're going to be able to see it. This is your preview window, if you will. Anything that we do to the actual project itself, edits or whatever, will all be able to be played back up here. And pretty much this is our live view, and more or less, I think preview summarizes it pretty well. Then we have over here, which is a few different option tabs. So we got info. This will give us basic info on our clip once we've got it loaded up down here in the timeline. Audio, which will obviously allow us to tweak different levels. However, that also can be accessed down here in the actual timeline itself. Preview, which can be kind of accessed through, just the use of the spacebar, which is, playing stuff, stopping it, skipping frame by frame, which again can be accessed through shortcuts, which we're going to extensively get to in the sections coming up. And then we have this effects and presets tab with a couple other tabs right here. For example, libraries, which is a variety of different assets and stuff like that. Again, all of this stuff is going to be deep dive. Now, down here is the actual timeline.
My chat is going kind of crazy at the moment.
They'll all pop up with their names right here. So as you see source name, that will be where our clips, start appearing, or our shapes start appearing, or our graphics, our songs, whatever the case may be. So if we'd imported that clip that was,
I think it's fine now though. Might be because I'm using Discord.
Source name, it would appear here as a line, and it would say.
I hope now, but.
And that's the layer organization
Looks
section,
like that's how
to the timeline. This right here, this whole area here, the sort of light gray area, is the timeline where all our chops, our cuts are done, our effects, etc. And this right here is going to be sort of the main area where you're actually able to influence stuff, next to perhaps using the effects tab, which is working in unison with the actual timeline area. And also, at any point in time, if you decide rather that there is sort of a higher priority on each one of these tabs, as you notice the cursor right here, if we hover over these sort of dark lines that sort of separate everything, we get this different kind of cursor. And the reason for that is because we're actually able to drag out areas or tabs that we want. So for example, say that we're editing a huge project and the layers are building up and we stop being able to see them. We are actually easily able to drag this up, for example, and actually at any point adjust the different tabs that we have available to us here. And we could even go a step further if you are not happy with the layout, which personally I always leave the layout how it is, based on the simple fact that After Effects clearly, or Adobe clearly, spent quite a bit of troubleshooting time deciding that this was the optimal layout for editing. However, at any single time, we're actually able to go up here and actually drag and drop sections and link them to different places where we think that they might be a little bit more easily accessible. For example, say for some reason we wanted the effects tab right here, or for some reason actually we wanted the timeline maybe up here, for example. As you see, once I click the name of the actual section, we could drag it up here and, for example, drag and drop it, and all of a sudden we have actually dragged that into a different area. However, in my opinion,
looks like a mess.
Optimal at all. And at any point, if you do accidentally do that, because it happens to the best of us, you can go up to Window.
Oh, okay, yeah, that's what I was talking about. Reset
Layout, and just like that, it will reset it.
Didn't know that.
By all means, if you're new to the program, sometimes you might be dragging something in a hurry.
Let me go do that real quick. What was that? Window? Workspace? Reset default to save layout. I think I actually saved workspace. Maybe? maybe. Yeah, I'm not sure why it says default, unless that's the actual default, but
you might accidentally drag it down.
definitely sounds like some shit I'd
Here, and then
do.
you're, freaking out that you messed up. Don't worry. A window, workspace, and reset standard to save layout. And just like that, guys, that is the layout walked through.
Oh.
See you in the upcoming part. All
Oh.
right, guys, welcome back to the Adobe
Oh,
After Effects
shit.
Masterclass course. Continuing on the basics section.
The basics.
Starting a new composition. And in After
Alrighty.
Effects, there's a trend that I'm going to address now, which is that
Let me see.
there's always more
I
than
can
one
get
way to
through
do something.
the-
So, for example, we're going to break down how to make a new composition, but there's going to be a variety of different ways that we can actually do it. So, way number one, arguably the simplest, it's right in front of us. New composition. All we'd have to do is actually tick this, or click it rather, and we're able to create a new composition. Now, for the
Yeah,
sake of
I get through the first hour today.
one, because obviously throughout the course of our After Effects course,
Or at least up until like the end of this well, not this specific one, but the end of the nearest chapter at like the 1 hour mark. That's where I'll end it off.
Organize it by just calling them comp 1, comp 2,
Comp
comp 3,
1.
comp 29,
Let's
whatever the
make
case may
one.
be. And right below here, we have an actual, different specifications. So for example, right now, it kind of by default creates a 1920 by 1080p sequence. And that right there is just a standard 1080p sequence, right? But for example, say we wanted to make a square sequence, for example, maybe we would do 1080 by 1080. And that would be able to create a...
Is my... Interesting. Okay, wait. I don't think that... Oh... That's actually kind of trash. Apparently composition settings don't pop up.
A square composition, but for the purpose of this, we're just going to go 1920 by 1080.
Because it's a
And
different
this right
window,
here is
allegedly.
width and dimensions, if you will. Now, down here is the frame rate.
I could always set up like
It's
another window
23.976,
capture, but
maybe, for example, standard footage might be 30 frames a second.
just follow what he's saying.
Oftentimes it's usually 29.97, which is close to 30 frames a second. So we'll just leave it on 29.97. And that, of course, can be adjusted depending on the clips you're working with. Some clips might be 60 frames a second. If you're working with, extreme slow motion, you might even be using 120 frames a second. But standard footage is usually about 30 frames a second or 29.97. Down here is actually going to be the duration. This is the next most important situation you should be dealing with. Now, the numbers look maybe a little confusing. If you're looking on first glance, you could think maybe this is 30 minutes and 18 seconds, but it's not. It's actually 30 seconds and 18 milliseconds. The way this goes right here is the furthest number is hours. So at the moment it's 0, which is good. We're not trying to make a movie or anything. Next over is the minutes. And next over is the seconds, and finally is the milliseconds. So for example, say we wanted to make a 1 hour, 30-minute sequence, we would change the 0 over here to a 1, the 2 over here to 30, and we would actually make these right here 0, 0, and 0, 0, and that right there would be a 1 hour and 30 minutes.
Is 0, 0?
That's pretty huge, and we don't really want that. So let's go ahead and change the hour to 0. Let's change the 30 minutes to 0. Let's actually just make a 30-second sequence. That's what we're going to be doing for the purpose of the, example today. Now is background color. Background color is the next sort of key thing you should be able to look at. And that right there, at default, is set to black. Depending on what your actual project specifications are, you might want to change that, maybe, to a different color. But for the majority of projects, black is just a nice base layer background color based on the fact that the background color isn't actually being shown to the audience of the actual video most of the time because of the simple fact that we are overlaying footage over the top of it, and the black might only act as maybe a cutaway or something like that. So overall, black is a pretty useful color to have as the background color, and for me, it's the one to go with. We're going to go ahead and press OK. And just like that, in our composition, our preview viewer, if you will, we actually have the composition pop up, and in our media manager over here, comp 1 appears right there. And just like that,
I literally just realized he doesn't have the mini lesson in here. But it's whatever.
created our first composition. But remember what I said to you guys. I said that there is never only one way to do something, and that's going to be a huge trend throughout After Effects. There's never one way to do something. So we showed you one way to do it, but there's multiple others. Now, secondly, up here there's a composition tab, and composition has new composition. So at any time, if say we didn't want to create a composition by clicking the button here, by the way I've just deleted that obviously, we could go up here to composition, new composition, and we would be greeted with the exact same composition creation screen, and we'd be able to create another composition. Now also there is a third way to do it. So after we click create, which does the exact same thing, it's no different, and by the way I'm just using the mouse wheel to scroll in and out to see this right here, we are actually able to create our composition right here. And of course at any time we also have the toggle transparency grid. So toggle transparency, if we were to click that, turns the background off. So this is perfect if you're trying to create overlays, if you're trying to create lower thirds, or if you're trying to just create
this part. Okay, I unmuted, but this part is actually huge. If you're trying to make transitions, I'd say a lot of Twitch related stuff actually relies on this. If you're trying to make alerts or transitions, this is the way to go. Or if you're trying to include anything you make here into another project, which is gonna come in later, there's like a process for it, but yeah, if you want like some text or something, animated text, and you want to include that into another project, you of course go with the transparent background, unless you want a colored background as like a shape or something. I don't know, like a square, because that's what it's gonna look like if it's not if it's just text and you have the background, it's gonna show up like as a square with some text on it. If you include it into another project, but it's actually really important here. I'm not sure if this is giving a lot of attention, but if you deal with alerts and transitions, this is definitely something to take note of.
something that can be input on another scene without a background, and we're going to be emphasis on extensively getting to that later on. So I'll toggle that back on. For the majority of projects, we do not have the transparency grid on because we do want a background to it. Now let's actually go ahead and delete this and show you the third and final way to make a composition, and that is by going down here to the create a new composition button, which is down here, and we can actually tick that, and again we're greeted with the exact same familiar composition settings window that we were able to access in two other different ways before that. And this will of course be the final way we'll do it. So we'll actually look at our sequence here, decide that, you know what, this is pretty good. The frames a second have changed, so let's actually just go ahead and make it 30 frames a second. Why not? We'll see how 30 frames a second gets us, and we'll actually just go ahead and press OK. And just like that, we have explored 3 different ways to create a composition, starting the trend that I promise you there is never one way to do something in After Effects. There's always at least 2, 3, 4, or 5 different ways to do the same exact thing in After Effects, and different executions of it. Although they're different, they still breed the exact same result. So that right there was the starting a new composition section. We're going to come back in a second with importing a clip in 2 different ways, continuing on this trend of there's always multiple ways to do something. See you there. Welcome back to the Adobe After Effects Masterclass course, continuing on the basics section. This is importing a clip, and we're going to continue that trend straight away where there's never only one way to do something. So we've created our composition, we explored 3 different ways, and now that we actually have a composition, we want to get some media in here. At the moment it's just a black background, and it's not too interesting. We want to actually have some clips in there. So I'm actually going to load up the After Effects file, which is the After Effects Masterclass file. And I got a few clips here. Now we're going to be getting to these next couple in a second, but first off, what I want to actually do is I want to go ahead and import the COO24. Okay, so there's actually multiple ways to do something. Now, the easiest way, in my opinion, is to actually click, hold on your file and drag and drop. Now, it takes a second sometimes, but overall, once you've drag and dropped it, it will actually import into the media manager right here, and then just like that, we have our clip. Now, COO24 is just the standard formatting option of my Sony camera, and we actually have our clip right there. However, as I said before, there's never only one way to do something. So let's go ahead and just delete that, and we can go up here to File, down to Import, and we want to actually get a file. And just like that, we can now on our own intuition, we can actually go to this computer, and we could actually go ahead and navigate to the After Effects masterclass file and go ahead and click and select our clip that we want to import and go ahead and just tap import. And just like that, it has imported to our actual timeline, or not our timeline is down here, but we've imported that to our media manager right here. Just like we talked about earlier, there is all the different media that you import, whether it be graphic, a composition, etc. It will all pop up here. And now if we wanted to actually drag that into our composition, we could click and hold and drag that over and drop it into our composition. And also, as we see here, it's looking relatively low quality, so if we wanted to increase the quality at any time, we can increase the resolution playback quality, because this is not the final quality, this is only the quality that we see in here.
Alright, let me go back.
Composition and hold and drag that over and drop it into our option. We could click and hold.
Okay.
This is
I'm gonna do that exact same thing, but with this. There we go. Wonderful.
This is not the final quality. This is only the quality that we see in here. We could change that from quarter to full, and just like that, if we go ahead and just give that a play, we have a clip that is the first clip that we've added to our timeline. And I believe this is a relatively funny one. If I click and drag this over, I think all I'm doing is I'm just in my office, my old office. I've actually left this office at this point, and I'm actually just writing on a piece of paper, and I am writing the After Effects Masterclass on the piece of paper. And just like that, that right there is how to import a clip into Adobe After Effects, of course, in 2 different ways. We'll come back in a second with starting a composition from media to match the specifications. See you there. Welcome back to the Adobe After Effects Masterclass course. We're continuing on the basics section. This is starting a new composition from media. So, as you see here, this is where we left off. We imported our clip into our media manager up here, and then we drag and dropped it into our timeline. So we've started to get into this at this point, and this is just a funny little clip of me writing After Effects Masterclass onto a piece of paper, a notepad, and just showing it up to the camera, just to keep topical for this particular course that we're working through. Now, if we wanted to match the project settings, which is pretty crucial because I want to just alert your attention to one thing. If we go up here and click Comp 1, we notice that we made a 1920 by 1080 sequence that was 30 frames a second. However, and also it was 30 seconds, right? So if we actually go up and click the clip itself, we can start seeing the specifications. If we see here, this clip is 1 minute 13 seconds and 4 milliseconds, and it's 59.94 frames a second. So even though we've imported it here into the composition, it's not the actual size or any of the specifications of our Comp 1. Now, we could of course right click, go to composition settings, and change this comp to match that clip. However, a much simpler way to do it is actually just to create a composition straight out of the particular clip we want. So the way we do that is, for example, getting comp 1, go ahead and deleting it based on the fact that that's actually not useful for us at the moment. We would click our clip and we would click and drag, and instead of dragging it into our timeline, we drag it down to the new composition button.
Alright, I'm gonna pause it right there just because what he was trying to explain was actually pretty confusing, the way he worded it, because he worded it as like comp 1 and then the video clip being the same thing when it was 2 completely different things. Because if it were the same thing, then you would be able to click on comp 1 and then it would show up. Obviously it does show up here because I already have it. But if I didn't, right, hold on, oh fuck, comp 1, in this case the comp 1 is selected up here, as you can see, so you can make sure to, yeah, in this case, yes, in this case gotta make sure it says comp 1 at the top though, just to make sure you're actually inserting it in the right composition, because like for example if you had this one, then it for sure wouldn't. How do I open this one up as well? I have multiple ones opened up. See, I'm not exactly sure how to maneuver my way through this, through the panels with these two, but I guess you can only have one composition selected at a time. Maybe more if you have like, I'm not gonna get into that, but alright, so basically what he said was just to take this, do that, then you have C0012.
Down here that we were able to use earlier, and we would drag and drop, and what that does is it instantly creates a new composition that entirely matches whatever clip we drag and drop down to the start new composition button. However, it's C0024 because of course it matches every aspect of the clip that we've created. But because we want to stay organized, let's go ahead and right click it, go to composition settings, and the only thing we want to change, or there's two things we want to change, is call it comp 1. Just like that, we call it comp 1. And however, also there's an interesting thing in my camera that comes about where it actually doesn't start as 00000 based on the time code in my camera. It's off. So what we'd also want to do is start time code and actually just change all these to zeros so that the actual timeline down here, as you see currently, it does not say 1 second, 2 second, 3 second, which is a product of the camera that I'm using. And we can actually just go ahead and change that all to 0000, press OK, and just like that we now have a composition 1 that entirely matches our clip, and it's the exact same length of the clip, for example. And also, as we go ahead and press spacebar and literally just play this through, this right here is a and it's lagging a little bit because the clip is just high quality. This right here is a perfectly matched composition to our clip, and also as we work through, it is counting up in the exact order that we want it to. 10 seconds at the moment, we could skip to 15 seconds, and we're at 15 seconds, we skip to 20 seconds, and it pops up with 20 seconds down here, and that right there is our tracker. Even though we can clearly see it says 20 seconds, 15 seconds, 10 seconds, sometimes you need to know where you're at, and as you see, we're 20 seconds and 8 milliseconds, so we can actually just go over a couple frames and get directly to 20 seconds. But that right there is starting a new composition through media. Overall, an important section, because this is how I personally create new compositions whenever I'm making a new project, because it's the fastest way to do it. Because instead of having to go up here to composition, new composition, and manually fill in all the settings, you just simply drag and drop the clip into the new composition, and it instantly creates a composition based on the exact specifications of the clip you're creating the composition with. Alright guys, welcome back to the Adobe After Effects Masterclass course. Continuing on the basics section, this is going to be a tools and shortcuts section, breaking down some of the most important tools and some of the most important shortcuts. Now we're going to be introducing more tools and more shortcuts as we go, but not to overwhelm you, I just want to cover the mandatory basics that you got to know to be able to maneuver between this program. So we're going to start with the tools, and the tools section is all up here. So at any time you are able to change tools, and we're going to be getting into the shortcut.
I actually do recommend having like a certain image that I have, which is, you can find it on Google as well. You just look up After Effects shortcuts, and then you usually get like an image of a keyboard with shortcuts on each of the different keys. Well, it's not, it's like an image of the tool on the keys, right? So that way you can obviously tell from that image what you'll be should be doing, at least for the start, because later on the more you use this program, the more you'll be able to do it off of like muscle memory. But
a little bit quicker maneuver between the different tools, but more or less we're going to start kind of chronologically. So first off, you've got the selection tool. This is the one we're in now. This is the standard tool you'd use to, for example, move clips around, to you know, basically do all your kind of natural type of stuff. Right? Selection tool, think of that as just your go-to maneuver tool. If you're in this tool, that's the sort of the default tool that you should be in when you're trying to edit stuff, do your chops and cuts, etc. Next, you've got the actual hand tool. So for example, say we wanted to zoom in a bit, right? And we wanted to maybe do 200. And we just want to drag the screen around, but not actually move the clip out of the composition. We would be using the hand tool, and we can actually move between the actual clip and we are actually able to kind of highlight, zoom in on different areas, but not affect the actual clip's placement in the composition. Whereas I'll just show you what would happen if for example, we were using the all selection tool and we tried to move around. As you see, we're moving that clip out of the composition and out of the actual 19 by 1080 resolution. So basically, if you want to actually move the clip around, you'd use all selection tool. However, if you just want to maneuver between the sequence and actually just maybe highlight a different area or come up to the corner to do some text up here, or maybe make a slight adjustment in the bottom right corner or something, or tweak a lower third in the bottom left, you'd be using the hand tool. This allows you to maneuver between the composition but not actually move the particular selected clip that we're actually working with. Next up is the zoom tool. Now the zoom tool is kind of useful, but it's also maybe a little bit slower than perhaps going down here, because if the zoom tool, at any time you can click and zoom in, for example, which is kind of cool. However, you also have this zoom area down here, which I personally find, after about 5 years of using After Effects, is quicker than navigating our way up to the zoom tool. It's actually a little quicker just to, for example, say we want to zoom in, maybe just go in here and go into 100%, or maybe we want to go way deep, 1600, which, as you see, that's too deep. However, what the zoom tool is good for is zooming on specific sections, because, for example, if we were here and we wanted to do maybe 400% in, it just zooms in straight to the center point, and that's that little kind of cross right there. However, if we want to zoom in, for example, just on the tripod, we would use the zoom tool, and we can actually zoom in on a specific area, or, for example, my little dog's face that's this little statue I had in my office. And at any time, if we're zoomed in, we can actually navigate down here, and it says 400, and we just go to fit, and fit just brings us straight back to a full screen cover, and this is kind of the default one we'd be operating in, right? Very straightforward, very standard. Next tool that you should definitely be aware of is the rotate tool. Rotate is right here, and it definitely looks like a rotate tool. It changes the cursor to this, and we can click and hold a clip, and we can actually rotate any which way that we'd actually like, and we can actually rotate around, and we can actually go ahead and basically rotate the clip around. Or, for example, if we were if we had a shape on the screen or a graphic or something, this could be useful to maybe change the rotation of it. And overall, rotation is a very straightforward tool. Cameras is used later on when we're actually getting into 3D stuff. And next most important tool is the rectangle tool. Now it says rectangle, however, if we click and hold, we have all these other shapes that we can create. Now there's multiple different types of shapes. You've got shapes and you've got masks. So at the moment, notice that we are selecting a clip. So if we were to use this
part is very important, actually. Very important.
Tool, and we were to click and hold, what this does is actually crops out a section of our clip, and it creates.
There's a big difference between selecting shapes when you have another clip selected and selecting a shape without the clip selected. It does two completely different things for the same tool. For example, here, obviously you are doing the shape, but since you have the video clip selected, it's only highlighting what's in the shape. But if you were to unselect it, okay, I have the fill. The fill is actually, there we go. If I were to have the clip unselected, for example, then instead of only highlighting the square part of the clip, it's literally a square that's unrelated to the clip. Let me delete that and then go back to the video.
And we've got a whole masking section coming up next, which is going to be, diving into this. So if we undo that, we notice that it actually creates a selection of a clip. However, that's only if we're selecting a clip. If we're not selecting a clip, and we know we're not because obviously it's highlighted there, and if we click off, it's not. And then we were to actually be on this tool, and for example, let's say we get a rounded rectangle this time, and we were to draw a shape. Now it actually creates an individual shape layer. So actually, at any time, if you find yourself accidentally cropping into your clip, it's definitely just because you were accidentally selecting the particular clip itself. And all you have to do is actually just go ahead and not select the clip, and then you're able to drag and drop with the actual shape tool up here and create whatever shape you want. And it also works when you're selecting a shape layer. So instead of making another shape layer there, we were selecting our shape layer. So if we draw another shape, all it does is create another shape within our existing shape layer. But if we were to undo that and not select a shape, we can actually drag and drop or drag out, and we are able to make a new shape layer, which actually pops up here. But let's actually go ahead and just highlight those, delete them for the time being, and we can actually crack on with the next tools. Now, pen tool, this right here is another form of the shape tool. So for example, if we're selecting our clip right here and we want to create a shape around an already existing object, we would, for example, let's try highlight the notebook. We could draw a rough outline of the notebook right here and join it up, and just like that it will create a mask which crops in and seals off a specific section. However, if we want to just delete that mask, and we were not selecting a clip, this is a custom shape tool. So then again, say we wanted to still draw around that, but not actually be selecting our clip, we would be able to create a custom shape that is another layer around that. So the shape, the pen tool is absolutely perfect for custom shapes, based on the simple fact that we can sketch already existing shapes, and we're able to actually make a sort of new layer that's a outline of whatever that existing shape was. Next up is a super useful tool, something you'll be using a lot, which is the actual text tool. So if we click on this, we can actually have this different cursor that pops up, and if we click the screen, we notice that if we want to actually type something, we get this sort of text layer that's been created here. We can actually type, for example, Jack Cole. So I'm just gonna just use my name as an example. We could drag that down here, and just like that, we've created a piece of text, and that can at any point be customized by going over here and changing the color, but we're going to extensively get to that in the coming up sections, right? So I'll just leave some red text right there, for example. However, just like the actual shape tool, we have a click and hold button where we can actually get a horizontal text or a vertical text. So right now we've got the Jack Cole horizontal text, which goes across the screen. But if we were to delete that, and say we wanted the Jack Cole text to be coming down the left-hand side, we could click and hold, click the vertical text tool, click up here, and actually just go ahead and type in Jack. I'll just spell just Jack because it's a little bit smaller. And now just like that, we've had some text that actually comes down the screen instead of actually going horizontally over. And right now we have vertical text. So that right there is the text tool, and it's nice and straightforward. Let's go ahead and just delete that layer right there, and we can go over here to the brush tool. Now the brush tool is not necessary at the moment. This will actually come into play a little bit more later on when we're actually tweaking different particular areas. There is also the clone stamp tool, not super necessary at the moment, and of course the eraser tool, which will come into play as we actually go over. The next most interesting one is the roto brush tool. This particular one is, we have an entire section coming up, and it's going to get super intricate, but essentially if we double click a layer, the rotoscope tool is how to sort of, with AI, be able to instantly highlight a specific section of the actual clip. See, drag it over this notebook, and the AI.
Wait, what the fuck?
That right there is a specific object, and it highlights it for us. So instead of having to use a mask
What the hell?
tool
I don't remember this.
manually, if you will, we're able to do that. But that's a little bit too complex for now, and it's very intricate, so we're going to be getting to that in its own entire section. But for the time being, let's just go back over here to the selection tool, and let's start breaking down some of the shortcuts which are actually going to enable you to maneuver so much easier throughout this entire program. So, arguably the most important shortcut in the entire program is Control S. This is save. Saving is something you gotta get in the habit of doing.
True.
I've worked hours on projects before when I was much younger, and
Let me do it right now.
pressing Control S every few minutes, and I lost all of that progress, which is so demotivating to have to start from the top. But if you're pressing Control S at all times, you're able to save your project. So right now we haven't saved it, which means we can actually save it. We're gonna call this After Effects Masterclass, and we're actually just going to go ahead and click enter and save that. Now just like that, we've actually saved that to our particular After Effects Masterclass folder, and just like that, we've got our project. So if we were to close this down after editing, or God forbid it was to crash, we'd be able to simply load it back up through this file right here, and it would come back with all of our progress saved. So Control S is a crucial one, and you've got to be using it. Now next up is the command for the all selection tool. So if, say for example, we were in the text tool and we just got done making some cool text and we wanted to jump back to the selection tool, all we'd have to do is press V, and just like that, it jumps back over here to our all selection tool, and we're able to crack on with whatever other adjustments we were actually trying to do. Next up, because we're going to go in chronological order, is how to jump to the hand tool. That one's super straightforward because it is H. When we press H, it jumps over to the hand tool. And whenever I say it a shortcut, notice that the button changes to blue because it's jumping to our actual next tool that we're actually using. So H is of course the hand tool. We press H to jump over to that. Next up, the zoom tool. That's another very straightforward one. Z. Z is of course the zoom tool, Z being the first letter of zoom and H being the first letter of hand, right? So the zoom tool is another super self-explanatory one. Again, we could zoom straight in on the happy dog with the golden nose and come back over. Z, very straightforward. Next up is rotate. The rotate tool would sort of lead you to believe it's R, but it's actually W. And when we press W, it changes to the rotate tool. Some of the buttons, follow the sort of the first letter of the word pattern, if you will, but a lot of them don't. In fact, more of them don't, to be honest. So if you're pressing R, you might be a little bit disappointed. However, what R does, if we press R, is it pops up the rotate down here. So instead of jumping to the rotate tool, it pops up the actual layer properties rotate, which we have a whole section coming up next breaking down the layer properties, so don't worry about that for now. We'll just bring that straight back in. Next up is going to be how to jump to the shape tool. So that would be Q. Q jumps us to the shape tool, and of course if we're selecting our clip and we were to draw something, it just makes a mask. So for example, if we wanted to make a star around the dog's face, right, we could do that because we're selecting the clip. But if we were to press Q and we're not selecting the clip, then we'd be able to make a shape, whatever shape that we actually want in particular, right? So let's actually just undo that. And the next one, because say we're moving on and we want to get our pen tool, the next one will be G. G gets the pen tool, and we know that that's changed because the cursor is clearly this little pen. And again, we could do a selection, for example, selecting the actual notebook itself, and we're not selecting the clip, which means it's going to draw a shape. Awesome. That right there is the pen tool covered. Next up is going to be the text tool. Now, it would lead us to believe that text tool would be T, but T actually applies to other things in the program. Therefore, the text tool shortcut is Control T. So instead of just T, it's Control T. And at any time, we can actually go up here and change to the horizontal. And then because we press Control C, we could go, Jack Cole, and we could make another one of these titles, and we could position it down here if we wanted to, or we could get our our adjustment work areas around here, and we could actually drag it, maybe put it on the table, press W to change to the rotate tool, for example, scale it in, and maybe put Jack Cole on the notepad or something, right? I'm of course just flexing the different options to kind of reconfirm that into your mind. Let's go ahead and click delete that right there. And finally, in terms of the actual tools up here, or in terms of the tools up here, we've completed them for now, and we will come back with some later on. However, there's some shortcuts that apply down here. We briefly went over R, which is to jump to the rotation, but at the moment we're just going to press R again to close that back up, because you can repeat the same shortcut and it will just sort of undo it down here. The interesting one is L. L pops up our audio level. So at the moment, this is 0000 dBs, which that is just normal volume. If we were to scale it up by clicking and dragging, we could scale it up 12 times, or we could scale it down to minus 192 dBs, which would be absolutely not hearable at all. Even a dog couldn't hear this right here. And that is by simply pressing L. But of course, if we press it again, it closes up. If we press it again, it opens back up.
I'm gonna actually try that with this clip. Does it show exactly like, okay, it actually does.
Again,
all right, perfect.
Increase volume or do a keyframe to increase volume. This is how you do it. Now there's another one which is similar to this, which is LL. LL opens the waveform. Now a lot of the time it takes a second to load this up, but more or less this actually showcases the different
not a lot of audio, but
in this particular clip. Now of course there's not a whole lot of audio here based on the simple fact that it's a clip of me drawing on a piece of paper, right? So there's really no huge audio spikes here at all, but at the end you can see that there is a slight audio spike. However, this is very much more apparent when you're dealing with a song, for example. You'd see loads of peaks just like this every sort of couple beats or whatever. And we're going to be importing a song actually in the next section, so you'll be able to sort of test this ability a little bit more. Now, if we were to press LL, it closes it back down and undoes it. Now, just how we were talking about the mask, right? So say we're using the pen tool and we're selecting the clip and we want to draw a highlight around the actual notepad, for example, and we've masked, right? We've created a mask. A mask is essentially a crop, right? And we wanted to see that mask in action. We could actually select the clip and press M, and just like that, we have our mask that pops up down here because it's actually attached to the clip based on the fact that we've actually created a mask. And at any time if we wanted that gone, we could select the mask and press delete, and it would jump back to the actual normal clip dimensions and we'd be all good. However, also, if we wanted to bring it back, if for example we were like, oh no, I really wanted that mask, we can do the undo shortcut, which is Control Z, and just like that, it brings the mask back because what it does is reverses whatever you've done. So likewise, if we didn't like the mask, we could press Control Z, Control Z, Control Z, and Control Z, Control Z finally, because there was 4 different points, and it would fully undo the mask that we've actually just created. So absolutely awesome. Let's flex the Control S one more time, and as you see, it briefly saves it there because we'd already saved our project, which means that all it's doing is a quick save opposed to an actual save as. Finally, the final 2, which are extremely important, if we wanted to actually cut in. Now, as you see, maybe it takes me a good few seconds to even start writing, right? And say I wanted to trim this clip down so it starts as soon as I start writing, but as we see here, I don't even start drawing until about 2 seconds and 15 milliseconds. So if we wanted to chop this in, all we'd have to do is press Control Shift D, and just like that, that splits the clip in 2 different layers, and we could actually just delete that final section and drag it over to the start, and just like that, we actually have a clip that starts right away as soon as I start drawing, instead of actually, starting 2 seconds in. Also, if we wanted to duplicate this clip, that would be an extremely simple process. What we could actually do is press Control D, and just like that, that literally duplicates the layer. This could be useful, for example, if we wanted to overlay an effect onto the top layer and then maybe fade it out into the actual particular, next layers. Or to the layer below, which might not have the effect, creating sort of a fade out illusion. And that's pretty cool indeed. Now, if we actually go ahead and delete that, that right there is more or less the actual clip, the actual shortcuts done and dusted. You've got a couple more, right? For example, maybe Control C, which would copy the clip, and then Control V, which would paste the clip. But if you're doing that for clips, a much shorter one is, of course, Control D, because that's just duplicating, right? Also, opacity is something, so if we were to press T, that pops up the opacity, and that is how visible the clip is. So if we bring the opacity down to 0, it's not there. If we bring it up to about 50, it's sort of half there. If we bring it up to 100, it's 100% visible. So T is the final shortcut that we'll break down, and by all means, there's plenty more shortcuts coming up next, but these are sort of the basics, if you will, to familiarize yourself and be able to maneuver between Adobe After Effects. Thanks for watching the Shortcuts and Tools section. We'll be coming up next with an exercise to further confirm everything that we've learned. See you there. Alright guys, welcome back to the Adobe After Effects Masterclass course. We are continuing on the basics section. This is going to be an exercise. So what we're going to do is import and edit a audio and video sequence. So pretty much we're going to be incorporating audio for the first time, and this is going to be tapping into the waveform sort of LL thing that we were doing last time. And pretty much what we're going to be doing is, if you guys go to resources, you can download this particular clip and the Sneaky Snitch royalty-free audio, right? So more or less, if you guys go and actually download the Sneaky Snitch audio and the COO24 clip from the...
In this instance, I'll be using... I actually have a audio clip of God's Plan, which I'll be using for this. Let me import it. There we go. I'm not... Is this DMC... DMCA? DMC? I mean, I don't think I actually...
Go ahead and delete it from the actual section right here. We're going to walk through everything.
I'll be fine. I'll be fine.
Drag and drop them to import them, because that's the quickest way to import them, in my opinion. We're going to drag and drop.
For the video clip, it's going to be the same default one I've been using so far. not complicate things too
And
much.
because you guys have done the same thing, you should be operating with the exact same stuff in your media section right here. So what I want you to do is get the COO24 clip and drag and drop it down here. And what we've done is we've created our sequence. But first off, I want to right click it, go to comp settings, actually change the composition name to comp1. Let's actually just change the time code to 00, 0, and basically just change all of these to 0 so that it actually starts on 00, 00. And it's glitching out a little bit, but we've just done that. So we've got this sequence right here. Now, if I actually just drop the quality down a bit to quarter so we can play this thing smoothly, it's pretty much a clip of me just, you know, drawing on the actual pad and pen. And what we want to do is we want to get our Sneaky Snitch MP3. Let's drag and drop that into our sequence down here as well. And let's actually go ahead and press double L. And just like that, we actually have the waveform effect that pops up. And actually, if we go to the beginning and start playing this, we'll start hearing the audio itself.
Is that what the actual audio is called? Sneaky Snitch?
And just like that, we've got this audio.
Alright, hold on. Me try follow along. Oh, I don't actually. Yeah, okay. You just drag it here. LL. Okay.
Audio that's playing in the back. So what I want to actually do is I want to sync up our clip.
I don't think I can listen to God's Plan unironically anymore.
Audio, and basically have it chop on a variety of different beats. So let's actually start playing it through, and we're going to use some of those shortcuts to chop into this clip and actually make a a synced up sequence. So let's press spacebar to play. And that looks like a good area to chop on. We're chopping on these big beats, so let's select our clip and press Control-Shift-D, chop the clip, and let's actually just go over maybe 2 seconds. Why not? Let's go over a few seconds, press Control-Shift-D again, chop that out, and drag it back over again. Now let's actually play it from there and find the next clip to chop on. And it looks like that is the next clip to chop on. And now I'm starting to see a pattern where it looks like every few seconds we've got to chop. So again, let's go over roughly 2 seconds. Press Control-Shift-D twice and actually just bring this over here. And we actually, by the way, we can press Shift to lock it to the next clip, right? So if we weren't pressing Shift, it would just we'd have to manually do it. But if we bring it close and press Shift, it'll lock to the end of our previous clip. And it looks like that right there is the next clip that we want to chop, so we'll chop it. And again, we'll go over probably another 2 seconds or so. Chop that again with Control-Shift-D, delete the middle section and drag it over, and we'll drag to the top and play it from the top just so you can see what's starting to happen. And in fact, I realized that I probably want to just go ahead and chop that one right there so we can actually do a little bit quicker, right? So let's play again.
I'm gonna do the same on my end. Let me switch to the first setup. I'm gonna do the same here, or at least try to, because like the waveforms are actually pretty difficult to. I mean, I can do it, but it's just the cuts are gonna be like every millisecond with this song clip. But I can definitely try doing it with. I can do it with some of them. It doesn't literally have to be every single one. I'll do one like right here. Oh, Control-Shift-D. Oh, there we go. I don't think it actually. Another thing with this audio is for some reason it sounds like this after a while. Okay, never mind. This is a sick audio clip. I think this is like a. I think this is like a genre though. It's like slow reverb or something. Sounds similar. Yeah, I'm pretty sure. Holy shit, that was bad. Okay, so it doesn't actually. I'm gonna put like the end point here. So N, so it loops back. I think the whole cut effect is by putting it over the clip. Cause just cutting it, I don't believe it actually does anything. Yeah, okay. It has to be like slightly over the clip. Of course, you have to make sure it's actually on beat though. Okay, hold on. I have an idea, and that idea is basically to cut it a bit ahead, so that when you actually do this, it's like on beat. Me endpoint here. I mean, yeah, it's difficult to see, of course, but it's mainly just the audio choice. Audio choice. Not sure what did I just click? Oh, trying to cut the wrong clip. Of course. Yeah, I'll do what he's doing in the video, but it's not gonna work with this audio clip. Maybe for anybody actually following it, then it'll work better with a like just choose a better song.
And just like that, when it comes over here, we'll chop that again, go over a few more seconds, chop that again, and what we're doing is essentially just trying to sync it to the beat. Every few seconds, there's one of these beat drops, and we can actually just keep chopping it down so that we're pretty much syncing it up to the beat, and I'm just guessing that that's the next actual one that we can sync it to. And what we're gonna have is a sequence, once we've just kept chopping to the beat, that pretty much, you know, sort of jumps between the actual wording of this actual Adobe After Effects Masterclass course right here. And what we're doing is actually just syncing it up. So we'll press spacebar to play it. And just like that, the next clip comes up. We can go over, chop that over, bring it back over again, play. And it looks like that's the next beat that we want to chop on. And what we're going to be left with after this is a video clip that looks like it's synced to the actual audio because it's actually chopping on the beat. And every beat, even though the beats aren't necessarily extremely prominent, they're very much so obvious. And also the sort of you know, pattern in our mind starts to understand what's happening, and we you know, we sort of start to feel this effect of the video being synced with the audio. So if I go back to the beginning, I press Control S to save it, so we make sure that we're fully saved, and I press spacebar to play. And just like that, we actually have a pretty synced up sequence, and I'm actually going to keep going over, and I'm just going to keep on chopping them every few beats, because I believe that what we want to do is just keep on chopping, and is finding out how interesting this is going to look. And what this does is kind of build a stairway to heaven, if you will, and actually looking at it now to actually make it even more effective.
Stairway to heaven, you say?
And what we'd be doing is we can click and drag all these over, and we can actually hold shift to make sure to drag these over. And now what we've done is cut out even more, so there's going to be an even bigger emphasis of a cut, and it's going to be even more obvious. So now that we've done that right there together, you should be following through exactly what I've done. I press Control S to actually save, and now when we go to the beginning, we can actually go ahead and press spacebar to play, and just like that, we've got this very obvious.
Yeah, in this case, yeah, since he deleted the clips in between, it's not the same thing as it was before. Here's like, I don't know how many clips, but it's more than 10, most likely. Since he's deleting the ones in between, and yeah, for sure.
And what we do is we can click and drag all these over, and we can actually hold shift to make sure to drag these over. And now what we've done is cut out even more, so there's going to be an even bigger emphasis of a cut, and it's going to be even more obvious. So now that we've done that right there together,
Because the previous cuts weren't even all that obvious, if we're being honest here. This one is definitely more obvious to the eye.
you should be following through exactly what I've done. I press Control S to actually save, and now when we go to the beginning, we can actually go ahead and press spacebar to play, and just like that, we've got this very obvious sync to the beat effect. And just like that, we've actually synced a clip to the beat using the waveform. And remember, waveform can be accessed by pressing double L, and just like that, we're able to actually jump ahead, and I can actually go over a few this time, go over maybe 4 seconds or so, bring it over, and bring it over, and just like that, we will have created a pretty interesting effect where it sort of jumps around, and I sort of write pretty quickly whatever the Adobe After Effects masterclass, and then it presents it to the screen. So let's press spacebar to play. We can actually just go ahead and chop it out on that last clip. So now we've got a sequence that basically presents the various different lettering on the screen, shows it, puts it down, and then cuts to black. And actually what we can do is at the end we can actually just get the text tool, and we can click on the screen and type Fin. And Fin obviously is like that old school the way of saying the video is finished. Maybe like old-timey videos would have this, so I think it's kind of just a fun little text to put there. And we can actually press Control T, get the text tool, highlight it, and make that white. And now if we go to the beginning and play this, we've got a funny little sequence that sort of plays out, and we have actually created a interesting little sequence together by syncing it up to the beat. And really what this was is a sort of just an exercise to further confirm all the various different things that we've learned, including the shortcuts. Just like that, we have a fully synced up sequence. And that right there can actually be Control-Shift-D, cut that clip out at the end, and actually go ahead and press N to seal that off, so that right there is a full sequence from start to finish. It cuts every single beat that happens. If we press LL again down here, every single beat that hits, it actually has a cut in it. And just like that, we've created a sequence that syncs video and audio and combines text at the very end. So that right there was an exercise, and we're going to keep cracking on in a second with the Adobe After Effects Masterclass course. Alright guys, welcome back to the Adobe After Effects Masterclass course. We are cracking on with the basic section. This is going to be making folders and organizing the media. So, with such a huge project here, not yet, but the After Effects course is going to be massive, about 13 hours of content, which means that we're going to have so much media here, it's going to get very, very overwhelming at a certain point, and I think it's ideal to start by organizing stuff straight off the bat. So, I want to break down folders. Folders are a great way to organize, and it's an ideal situation, especially dealing with big projects, to make sure that you're organizing from the start. So down here is the folder one. If we hover over, it gives us the little annotation saying that we can create new folders. So let's click that, and let's actually call this one footage. We're going to be creating 3 different folders to start off with. Footage, and let's go down here, click create another one. Let's call this one compositions, which is of course going to be for our compositions, and let's call the final one audio. Audio is a good one. We're actually going to call that audio and call that composition, call that footage. Now to actually put stuff in the folders, it's a very simple process. In fact, what I think I might do is just right click, go to rename, and just call this comps. Just nice and short. Compositions is a little bit long-winded. Let's call it comps, footage, and audio. For the footage, let's drag, let's drop, and let's put that into the footage folder. Let's drag sneakysnitch.mp3, let's drag and drop that into audio, and let's get comp1 and put that into comps. And just like that, if we click the drop down menus, we have audio, comps, and footage. And of course it puts in alphabetical order, A being the start of the alphabet, C being the third letter, and F being, I actually don't know the 5th letter or something like that. And pretty much it's an alphabetical order organized. Now, at any time, if we wanted to minimize these, we could click the little arrow and click it. And just like that, it turns facing the side opposed to turning down. And we can actually minimize all of these, and just like that, when we press Control S, we have organized our project in a very effective manner. And this right here might not be applicable to you if you're only doing one tiny little project where maybe you're just doing a couple chops and cuts, or maybe you're just applying one effect to one clip. But for longer projects, stuff that you're going to be dealing with loads of media and loads of audio, loads of different compositions, and loads of overall media that's actually in the overall section here, it's a very wise situation to actually organize your stuff straight from the start, so that you don't lose anything. You know where everything is, and everything's just nice and easy, and easily accessible throughout the course of your project. Hey, what's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Adobe After Effects Masterclass course. We're continuing on the basics section. This is going to be walking through the layer properties. So we've gone over the tools and shortcuts up here. Now
we'll do like 3 minutes, 3 more minutes of this, and then pretty much call it a day. And just like go and review everything that we literally just went over.
There are further tools and shortcuts, if you will. They're not full tools, but there's further properties that are inside each one of these clips that are customizable and stuff that you should definitely know how to use. So let's actually just go ahead and zoom in a little bit here and take our bottom clip right here, and let's actually hover over this little arrow, which is the sideward arrow, which we know if we click this arrow, we actually can pop down 2 other sections, and these right here are the property categories. Now, we've gone over audio, so let's have a look at that real quick. Audio consists of the audio levels, which is a property, which means we can turn that up, we can turn that down. And it also has the waveform, which we've also gone over, and that one, of course, is much more apparent when we're using the sneaky snitch, because that's an actual track, which means that there's actual audio going on in it, opposed to this being a video clip where I'm really just writing on a piece of paper. So the waveforms aren't very obvious. But let's take that arrow up. Let's take that arrow up right here. The bit we haven't covered yet is transform. So let's actually take the arrow down and reveal the various different properties. Now, we went over opacity briefly. We know that the shortcut for that is T, which means that we can jump straight to opacity and bring that down, bring that up. But let's actually just go ahead and open back up all the other properties. We've also got rotate, which we went over, which was R, and that of course can be manual rotate instead of actually getting the rotate tool, which can be very, very useful sometimes. For various different situations, we might use the manual rotate, or we might use the actual rotate tool, which would be up here. However, this right here is much better for keyframes, and keyframes we're going to be getting to extensively later, but keyframes pretty much track the movement, right? Next is scale. Scale can be accessed by pressing S if we want to just go to scale. However, for the purposes of this, we're just going to be using all of the different ones. Now, of course, scale, if we started to use the properties, we'll scale in or scale out, depending on what our actual project is, requiring from us. And scale is something that's super useful for a lot of different situations, and it's something we're going to extensively get to next. Position is another one of them. Position is a, of course, manual ability to change the position of something. Now, of course, if we were pressing V and we were in our selection tool, we can actually, by hand, take the position around, but it's a little bit less precise. This right here has a horizontal and a vertical axis, an X and a Y, if you will. And if we were to drag one of them over, we can, for example, change the placement of the clip horizontally, or we could change the placement of the clip vertically. And that right there is the ability to just click, and it turns the cursor, and hold, and then we can drag over to actually change the properties of it. Or we can manually go in and, for example, say we were on scale and we wanted to make this 50, we could just change the actual scale amount to 50, and it would pop down. Likewise, here we could change this to 100, and it would appear over here because that's the position. But let's just press Control Z and Control Z to undo that. And finally, the anchor point. The anchor point is the very middle of the actual clip right there. Now, the anchor point, if you see, we can bring it down and we can put the anchor point at the bottom, but the anchor point overall should stay in the middle. The anchor point is the central location of the clip, and when we start to move the clip around, it will move around that anchor point. Also, there's a shortcut for the anchor point. So if we were to hold Y, we're able to drag and drop the anchor point, and as you see, the position and the anchor point change. So we can put the anchor point up here. Now, what that would do, for example, is the entire clip would revolve around that anchor point. So if we then decided to use the rotation, for example, it now, instead of rotates around the middle, it rotates around this anchor point, which is in the top right, or the top left rather. So overall, I'm pressing Control-Z to bring that to the center. We don't want to do that. We want to, for the majority of sequences, have that anchor point straight in the middle, so anything we do revolves around the middle and it happens in a central fashion. And overall, that right there is a brief dive into the layer properties, which can be accessed by simply clicking the drop-down arrow of any of these different clips, and then clicking the further drop-down of the actual subcategory within the properties. And we've got an exercise coming up with an example clip to further confirm and further, just put those properties right into your mind and, go over them in a fashion that you're going to retain them, because those properties are something we're going to utilize all throughout the course, and they're very, very, very relevant to almost any project that you'll be creating. All right, guys, welcome back.
All right, that is like a perfect. Hold on. That's like a perfect area just to leave it off. Wonderful area. Right. So everything is organized, perfect. One thing he forgot to mention though, that is actually, I think, one of the most important parts is, let's say, hold on, you see the anchor point, which I actually didn't see from this tutorial, but it's like, actually saves a whole bunch of time. Oh, that is not what I wanted to. Hold on. Let's say I switch where the anchor point is. No. Let me see. What was the? Is there a reason why this is giving me trouble? Hold on. Okay, do you have to press Y for it to? Okay, you do. Alright, yeah, I completely forgot about that. Very good to remind myself. So if I remember correctly, it was home, right? And control home, I think it was, or alt home? No. Control shift home, alt shift home, alt home. Let me choose one that only has like one clip here. So if I move this here, where is it? Okay, you can't really see it. I'm gonna put it right there. Alt home, alt home, control shift home, shift home, tab home. What the hell? Oh man, what is going on? Hold on. Okay, control home is to put the anchor point in the middle, and then control alt home is, okay, there we go, finally. That's what I've been trying to do for the past like 5 minutes. So let's say you change the anchor point. There's gonna be times where the anchor point is in the corner, for example. So what you want to do is press home and control home. Home, control home, control shift, control alt home. Hold on. Make sure I have is it alt home? Control alt home. Okay, control alt home and control home for the anchor point, which he did not mention, but it's super important because it saves a bunch of time. So let's say the anchor point is in the corner. So control home would be put the anchor point in the middle, and then control alt home is to put preferably you'd want to actually do control alt home first and then control home. That way it goes into the center. You have your clip, your layer, whatever, and it 100% of the time goes into the center. So you control alt home, with the pan behind or the anchor point tool, which is Y. Control Alt Home and then Control Home, just so you can have that in the corner, not in the corner, in the center. Is there anything else? He covered folders, the shortcuts and stuff, which is just gonna be muscle memory and just memorizing at the start, but you can briefly check those at the top. The waveform, for example, if your clip has any audio, press double L and you'll see that. It should be one of the easy shortcuts to remember though. Control Shift D as well if you want to cut, if you want to move or something. And for the end point, so it stops right there. There's also another one for the start point. We hasn't quite explained that, I don't remember. Mask, super important. If you have like a video clip selected and use a shape tool, whatever shape you make is whatever shape you make, the video selecting will be in that shape. For example, if you use like a rectangle or something, that's what's gonna appear. If you use like an ellipse, if you do like a perfect circle here with shift holding it down, then that's the only part of the clip that'll show. But if you deselect, you know, and then use the shape tool, it'll make a shape and not a mask. Nothing, but you know, I already went over this, was dragging the clip over to the comp, so you have the comp with the correct amount of FPS depending on the clip. So if the clip was 120 FPS, you want the composition to be 120 FPS, you drag it down, or you could do it manually, but it's a lot better automatically. Yeah, most important is organizing your folders and naming them correctly, please, for the love, please. I don't do this in Photoshop, but I should, cause I'm dumb. But in this, please get into the habit of doing this. The zoom here, if you want to see the whole clip, go down here. Let me actually switch the views just so you can see what I'm doing more clearly. Should have done that from the start, but yeah, zoom over here where my mouse is. If you want it to be like a transparent clip, you click this grid down here, makes it transparent, and Control S to save, which is going to be the last thing I do. And that is pretty much it for today. I'm gonna go do some exercise in like a couple minutes, so I'm gonna end it there for today. But we got the first hour done, which is pretty good. I'll take a look at some stuff that I could improve for tomorrow, cause tomorrow is gonna be lesson numero dos. And yeah, really consistency is gonna be the key for this. I wouldn't be too worried about like actually making some crazy good looking edits right off the bat, since that's not really the purpose. As long as I'm getting consistently coming live as much as possible, because I say Monday to Friday, but that is unrealistic first and foremost. But yeah, consistency, most important part. Doesn't really matter what comes from it, since as long as you could do it every day, then naturally something will come from it. Yeah, there was also a drawing portion, but I'm not gonna be able to do that today since I have some assignments to do as well, and it's already like 1 hour and 45, so we're 45 minutes over. Well, I say over the amount that I wanted to give this tutorial, not this lesson, but it's never gonna be 1 hour straight, because I do have to pause and go back sometimes, especially in the more complicated lessons. But yeah, for now it's pretty good. It's pretty good. I'll definitely be live tomorrow. I'm not sure. Should be like similar hour. Yeah. I'll see if I can upload the VODs on YouTube as well, so that anything missed, you could just go over there and check it. But that is pretty much it for today. I'll check a couple of things I need to do, but yeah, I shall see y'all tomorrow. Peace.